Hi there, my name is Kim and these are the Wayrider Chronicles, my alternative look at current affairs. Hi there everybody, today we're going back to a subject which I brought up in an earlier video, I think about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Cryptocurrencies and central banks, or central bank cryptocurrencies, CBDCs. That video talked about a project here in Switzerland called Project Helvetia 3, which is essentially being run by the Swiss National Bank, ESMB, and this project, or more correctly I suppose, pilot, used 4 Swiss franc denominated bonds, local government bonds, that were issued and settled as within a digital currency. Last Monday, Thomas Jordan, the current head of the Swiss National Bank, SNB as it's called, published or issued a report about this, where the project Helvetia is at the moment, Helvetia 3 is at the moment. As a recap, Project Helvetia 3 is a study about the issuance of a Swiss National Bank CBDC, central bank digital currency. I've noticed that they shy away from the term crypto, they use digital currency. And so this was a report issued on Monday, last Monday, the 6th of May. Without going into all the details of the report, which is very complex and would make this video far too long and boring, I would like to emphasize 2 aspects of this report. The first is fragmentation, which he uses, Thomas Jordan used, before and in his report. What he's referring to is that the central banks require control of their currency for many reasons. They have to be sure that within reason they're aware of how much of Swiss franc, Switzerland, US dollar, America, pound sterling in the UK, etc., is in circulation and in what form, because there are many forms of money: cash, sight deposits, bank deposits, etc. What they don't want is for unknown third parties to be large holders of their currency, because that will affect the currency itself, i.e. it will be will have a price effect on the currency. Relatively speaking, or very simplistically, countries prefer that their currency is relatively stable. It doesn't fly around 5 or 6% a day, for reasons which I've also brought up in a previous video, that it makes it much easier for international trade to be transacted if you're reasonably certain that something you buy today will more or less be the same price when you receive it, so you've got to pay for it in 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever time. What they don't want, and this comes down to something which touches, and they don't go into this in the report, something that touches stable coins like Tether, or which is called USDC, sorry, and other stable coins where they don't know. Okay, the Tether stable coin is essentially dealing with US dollar, but nobody knows what happens inside that stable coin. What is it being backed with, what the transactions are. It's relatively untransparent. And if we take, there are about 4 or 5 major stable coins, if we take all those stable coins, where you don't really know what's going on with them, especially from a supply and demand point of view, and how they're backed and how they're being managed by the people running these stable coins, then you have this fragmentation issue. They don't want that. The second point is settlement risk. Settlement risk is crucial. It essentially, what is settlement? What do we mean by settlement? Very simplistically, when somebody buys something, you've got to pay for it. There's a transaction that takes place. The thing that's being bought, there's money that changes hands. So, but there is a moment in any transaction where we have to be 100% certain, or we have to be as certain as possible, that the money will arrive in the pocket of the person who's selling it, and the object will arrive in the pocket, figuratively speaking of course, in the pocket of the person who's buying it. That infinitesimal kinetic, in modern finance terms, it lasts a couple of seconds. There is a risk involved. Put it this simplistically, is that actually the person who bought it doesn't have the money to pay for it. Even though he says it is, and he swears and declared right up until the last second that he had the money, oops, I don't have the money. So there is a whole clearing system that is involved to make sure that those instances of oops, I don't have the money don't happen too often, for obvious reasons. This is an interesting, Project Helvetia 3 and the whole digital currency, central bank digital currency effort is to make sure that those two things don't go wrong. Fragmentation, so proliferation of many different sites, uncontrolled different sites, or not under the supervision of the central bank, and the settlement risk side of it. We can go into this in much more detail, but taking those two aspects for anything to do with crypto coins or Bitcoin, with Bitcoin, we have a currency that is possible. I'm going to take into a third factor, which is volatility, which I've talked about at least 2 or 3 videos about this volatility issue. The first, the volatility factor is that Bitcoin is far too volatile to be used as a currency for international transactions. Second of all, again it touches cryptocurrencies. Stable coins. Nobody has any idea what's in stable coins. And most of them refuse to be properly audited, so we don't know. Yes, they've got billions and billions and billions, but nobody knows what these billions and billions are made up of. Could be pine nuts for anybody, for all we know. And the third one is settlement risk. The more you have different counterparties involved in a transaction, for obvious reasons, the settlement risk goes higher, because there are more components that can break down. It's very interesting, and it's an illustration of how central banks are very serious about not allowing any form of, let's say, wild cryptocurrency to take over their roles as central banks and defenders of their country's currency. That's it. See you guys.